Hi and welcome to the weekly market update. It is Tuesday, the 4th of June 2013. So in terms of data that we've seen this week, yesterday the theme of the day was pretty much PMI manufacturing numbers out from across the globe. It started off with Chinese data, came in slightly weaker than expected. We then had the Eurozone numbers into the morning. These actually came in much better than expected, so we saw some positive data from the Eurozone there, which made quite a nice change. For the UK, the PMI manufacturing number came in slightly better again than expected. However, as we went into the afternoon, we saw the US ISM manufacturing number. This actually came in a little bit weaker than expected, alongside the construction spending number, which also came in weaker than expected. I think this took traders a little bit aback. We've been looking for the stronger data with this talk of QE tapering, obviously data dependent, and now with some weaker data yesterday, it sort of just made everyone just take a step back and have a little think on the theme of QE tapering. We also saw Lockhart and Williams from the Fed out yesterday on the wires. Lockhart commenting that he thought the tapering of the QE could begin this summer. Obviously he added that it was data dependent, but putting in these timescales for the possible tapering of the QE. Also worth noting is sort of the movement that we had in dollar yen yesterday. We saw that come back through 100, and also for the Nikkei over yesterday and also over the weekend, seen a few down days for them, falling quite dramatically in quite large chunks. However, we've seen some ground made up today, but it's just something to watch out for. We've seen it fall nearly 18% from the 5.5-year high that we saw a few weeks ago. In terms of data that we've seen this morning, we've seen the Bank of Australia rate announcement and decided to keep everything on hold there. From Europe, we saw better Spanish unemployment figures. We saw unemployment falling by 98,300 there, so good out of Spain. We also had good data from the UK this morning in terms of PMI construction number. This actually was expected to come in around 49.8 and actually came in at 50.8, pushing it through that 50 barrier into contractionary territory. So it's actually a really good positive sign for the UK in terms of construction. Otherwise, from the EU, we saw a PPI number remained in negative territory and actually came in a bit weaker than expected at down 0.6%. So that leaves us trading with the FTSE around the 65.72 mark. We've got Dow at 15,207, Euro dollar around the 1.3094. Cable at 153.03. The gold futures trading around the 1400 mark, and we've got Brent at 101.80. Into the rest of today, not too much. It's just a bit of data out of the US in terms of trade balance, and US ISM New York figure as well, and also a sentiment survey, but not one that's too closely watched, so probably a pretty quiet afternoon session. Into Wednesday, the theme's going to be PMI services this time, so we're seeing the first reading to come out of China in the morning and early hours. We've got Europe throughout the morning, those figures, and then the Eurozone reading as a whole, expecting those to stay in the below 50 territory. And then from the UK, we're expecting the reading to come in a little bit better. Also out of Europe, we've got a GDP reading for Q1 expected to stay at down 0.2%. We've also got a government spending reading and also retail sales from Europe, again expected to stay down 0.2% for those retail sales. Otherwise, data Wednesday is going to be from the US, and I think it's going to be quite closely watched. We've got that ADP employment change number. It's expected to be quite a bit higher than the last reading that we saw. We're expecting 165,000 from 119,000. So it's going to be looking for it to be much higher. People watch this in anticipation of the non-farm number on Friday, looking for that to see how they might think Friday may play out. Otherwise, from the US, we've got mortgage applications. Last reading was down 8.8%. Had a bit of a mixed picture from the US recently in terms of housing, so it'll be interesting to watch the housing data, keep an eye on that and see how it plays out. Otherwise, we've got factory orders from the US expected to go into positive territory from negative last, so a bit of positivity there. We've also got the ISM non-manufacturing reading, expecting that to come in a little bit stronger as well. The evening of Wednesday brings, the Fed releases its beige book, which is just sort of statement of how the economy is doing right now and the current situation. Okay, so into Thursday, not too much data around. We've got the French ILO unemployment rate. First thing, expecting that to tick up to 10.9%. From Germany, we've got factory orders. We're actually expecting those to slip down to minus 0.1% from a positive reading last, So not looking too rosy there for Germany. But I think mainly what people are going to be watching out for on Thursday, we've got the Bank of England meeting around midday, British summertime. Not expecting any change. They're expecting them to keep rates and asset purchases on hold. It is King's last meeting before Carney comes in, steps in as governor. His first meeting will be on July 4th. But then I think the thing to watch is obviously the ECB that we've got Thursday afternoon, watching out for their rate decision. Last time we saw them to cut rates by 2.5%. But the main action last time was as a result of the question and answer period with Draghi in the conference. So I think people will be watching out this week to see what questions he's given, how he responds to these, to see if there's any more clues about the action they may be taking and how much discussion they've had this time around negative rates or maintaining rates, and also with the purchase programme. And also from the US on Thursday, we've just got a bit of data, just the usual initial jobless and continuing claims, expecting those in just slightly lower than last. Okay, so finally into Friday, we've got the German trade balance in the morning. We've also got current account exports, imports, just a bit of data around the economy for Germany. Expecting all the figures in a little bit lower than last. French trade balance is also in the morning as well. We get Spanish industrial output, expecting that down 2.6%, so not so good there for Spain. We've seen obviously the positive employment numbers the early part of the week, but not expecting such great data from them as the week goes on, so we'll see how that pans out. From the UK, we get a trade balance reading as well as the Bank of England GfK inflation survey. It's a survey of consumers, how they view inflation and their attitudes towards it, so I think something to watch out for there. As well from Europe, we've got German industrial production expected largely flat, and we've got the usual LTRO repayment at 11 o'clock. Last week the figures were relatively small for this repayment, and I think consensus this week is probably around the 1 to 2 billion mark again. I think main events on Friday is going to be that non-farm number, as I mentioned, from the US, highly anticipated, highly watched, especially on the back of the Fed tapering being quite contingent on how we see employment faring. Expecting the number to come in around 167,000, and the last was 165, so not too much difference there. Also expecting the unemployment rate to remain at 7.5%, the same as last, not expecting any change. And they'll also release the average earnings data, which is interesting to look at alongside the inflation data to see, and the jobs data to see a reflection of how healthy the jobs market is behind those initial headline figures. Okay, so I think the main events are going to be obviously the ECB that we've got Thursday, and then non-farm readings on Friday. But that's it for this week. As usual, any feedback is much appreciated. Thanks.